Ethan.
It was supposed to be an ordinary journey across the Atlantic. Just a mother and her son flying from JFK to Heathrow on a crisp October morning. Flight 2187, window seat 32A. 9-year-old Ethan Miller pressed his forehead against the cool window glass, watching the scattered clouds pass beneath them like islands in an endless ocean. His mother, Jessica, smiled as she watched him sketch airplanes in his travel journal. A birthday gift from his father who couldn't make the trip. "Try to get some sleep, honey," Jessica whispered, adjusting the blue airline blanket around his shoulders. "We'll be in London before you know it." Ethan nodded, his eyelids already heavy from the gentle hum of the engines. The cabin lights dimmed. Jessica took a sleeping pill, doctor prescribed for her flight anxiety, and drifted off beside him, her hand loosely holding his. But when the wheels touched down at Heathrow 6 hours later, Jessica awoke to the sound of seatbelts clicking open. Passengers gathered their belongings in the familiar post-landing ritual. She stretched, turned to wake her son. The seat was empty. The blue blanket lay crumpled. His sketchbook remained open to a half-finished drawing. But Ethan was gone. "Ethan?" Her voice barely audible at first, then louder. "Ethan?" Flight attendants rushed over as panic set in. Jessica's screams echoed through the cabin. The other passengers froze, confused by the commotion. "My son! He was right here! Right here!" What followed was unprecedented in aviation history. The aircraft doors were immediately sealed. Every passenger was held in place as flight attendants conducted a meticulous search. Overhead compartments, under seats, lavatories, crew rest areas. Nothing. Captain James Thornton's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the delay. We have a situation that requires everyone's cooperation." Airport security swarmed the plane. CCTV footage was pulled. Every passenger was interviewed. The baggage hold was emptied and searched. How could a child simply vanish from a sealed metal tube traveling at 35,000 feet? There were no signs of struggle, no opened emergency exits, no alarms triggered. It was as if Ethan Miller had dissolved into thin air. Jessica's husband Daniel flew to London immediately. Their faces became fixtures on international news. The FBI joined Scotland Yard in what became one of the most baffling missing persons cases in recent history. Theories emerged, each more unlikely than the last. Had he somehow fallen from the plane? Impossible. The cabin was pressurized. Had another passenger taken him? Every person on board was thoroughly vetted. No one had left their seat for more than a standard bathroom break. Was it an elaborate custody kidnapping? No. Jessica and Daniel were still happily married, both devastated by their son's disappearance. For 6 excruciating years, the Millers lived in a suspended state of grief and hope. Their dining room became a makeshift command center, walls covered with maps, timelines, and possible sightings. Jessica quit her job as an architectural designer to devote herself full-time to finding Ethan. Daniel, a software engineer, created an algorithm that scanned global databases for any child resembling their son. Every birthday, they still bought presents. Every Christmas, they hung his stocking. Every night, they left his bedroom light on, just in case. 6 years, 2 months, and 14 days after Ethan's disappearance. In Saint-Hubert, a small town nestled in Belgium's Ardennes forest, Dr. Henri Delacroix was finishing a quiet shift at the local medical clinic. It was nearly closing time when the bell above the door jingled. A tall man with a neatly trimmed beard entered, guiding a pale teenage boy by the shoulder. "My nephew has the flu," the man explained in perfect French, though with a subtle accent Dr. Delacroix couldn't quite place. "Nothing serious, but his fever won't break." The boy, thin, with dark circles under downcast eyes, sat quietly on the examination table. His clothes were clean but worn, his fingernails bitten to the quick. "What's your name?" Dr. Delacroix asked gently in French. The boy glanced nervously at his uncle before mumbling, "Gabriel." Something about the interaction triggered Dr. Delacroix's trained instincts. 23 years as a physician had taught him to recognize fear in a patient's eyes. He continued the examination, making casual conversation. "Where do you go to school, Gabriel?" The boy hesitated. "I don't. Uncle teaches me at home." "And where is home these days?" Another pause. "Near the forest." Dr. Delacroix nodded, noticing how the man tensed with each question. He asked the boy to remove his shirt to listen to his lungs, and that's when he saw it. A small, distinctive birthmark behind the boy's right ear, shaped almost like a crescent moon. The doctor's mind flashed back to an international medical bulletin he'd received years ago. A missing American boy with an identical mark. "I'll need to prepare some medication," Dr. Delacroix said calmly. "Please wait here." In his office, hands shaking, he pulled up the Interpol database accessible to medical professionals. There it was, Ethan Miller. The resemblance was unmistakable, even with the passage of years. Dr. Delacroix quietly triggered the silent alarm under his desk, then returned with medication for the boy's flu. "Take these twice daily," he instructed, maintaining his professional demeanor while police quietly surrounded the building. When Belgian authorities entered moments later, the man tried to flee but was quickly apprehended. The boy, now confirmed through DNA testing to be Ethan Miller, was taken into protective custody. Under careful questioning by child psychologists, 15-year-old Ethan finally revealed the truth of what happened that night at 35,000 feet over the Atlantic. "I wasn't completely asleep," he explained in a quiet voice. "I felt the plane shudder, just a little. Then I heard a sound behind the wall next to the bathroom, like metal sliding against metal." What Ethan described next sent shockwaves through the aviation industry. A man had emerged from a hidden maintenance panel in the wall, a panel designed for in-flight repairs that should have been locked and secured. He wore airline maintenance overalls and quickly pressed a chloroform-soaked cloth over Ethan's mouth while his mother slept heavily beside him. Ethan was smuggled into a rarely accessed equipment space in the plane's lower section, then removed with the luggage at Heathrow by the kidnapper, who turned out to be Simon Reeves, a former airline maintenance worker with specialized knowledge of aircraft design. For 6 years, Reeves kept Ethan isolated in remote locations across Europe, constantly moving, using a network of forged documents and underground connections. He taught the boy to speak German and French, forbade him from mentioning his past, and convinced him that his parents had died in an accident. Psychological experts would later theorize that Reeves suffered from a profound delusional disorder, genuinely believing he was rescuing Ethan from some imagined threat. It was only when Ethan developed a serious case of influenza that Reeves was forced to seek medical attention, the fatal mistake that led to his capture. When Jessica and Daniel Miller received the call from Interpol, they collapsed in each other's arms, sobbing with disbelief. Their overnight flight to Brussels was arranged by the U.S. State Department. A diplomatic escort waited for them at the airport. The reunion took place in a private room at the American Embassy, a moment so intimate that the few officials present would later say they felt like intruders witnessing something almost sacred. When Ethan saw his parents for the first time in 6 years, he stood frozen, trembling. Jessica approached slowly, afraid to frighten him. "Ethan," she whispered, "it's Mom." For a long moment he just stared. Then recognition dawned in his eyes, memories breaking through the fog of trauma and time. "You kept looking for me?" he asked, his voice cracking. "Every single day," Daniel answered, tears streaming down his face. Ethan fell into their arms and the Millers became whole again. The case revolutionized airline security protocols worldwide. Hidden access panels are now electronically monitored. Maintenance workers undergo enhanced background checks. Children traveling on international flights receive special identification wristbands. Simon Reeves was sentenced to 30 years in a high-security psychiatric facility. Investigators discovered elaborate journals detailing his delusion that he was protecting children from a fictional global conspiracy. As for Ethan, his recovery continues. Now 17, he works with child safety advocates, sharing his story to help others. The psychological scars remain, but so does his resilience. The Millers have established a foundation to help locate missing children and support families enduring similar nightmares. "Every missing child deserves to be found," Ethan told reporters on the 1-year anniversary of his return, "and every parent deserves answers." His story stands as both a haunting reminder of human vulnerability and an extraordinary testament to hope, even when all evidence suggests that hope should be abandoned. Sometimes the impossible happens. Sometimes the lost return. And sometimes, even at 35,000 feet in a sealed metal tube above the ocean, the unthinkable becomes reality. What did you think of Ethan's incredible story? Have you ever experienced or heard of something unexplainable happening during air travel? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more extraordinary true stories. This is John Louise, and I'll see you in the next video.